4, 3. And what's it say? Oh yes, that's 74.2. You know what that makes this, don't you? That makes this the fastest grasshopper in the country. Look at that, 74.2 miles an hour. Hi, and welcome to Tower. The hype train has started for the 2026 Poor Boys RC Speedrun Challenge. So I thought it was a great opportunity to share with you my journey from beginner to 74.5 mile an hour grasshopper, 4th in class result. I'm no expert. Whilst I've run cars and raced cars, this is the first time I'd attempted doing a speedrun challenge, and so I was starting from the very bottom. What we have here is a storyboard of how I went from beginner to 4th in class in my first speedrun challenge. I'll talk you through the car, the components and the rules, and whilst it's specific to the Poor Boys RC Speedrun Challenge, the information is applicable to any speedrun. On the 1st of June, Phil decides on the chassis to be run in the challenge and shares a video for announcing it. Last year, 2025, was an absolute stormer. Phil selected the Grasshopper and Hornet chassis as the entry point for the 2025 Poor Boys RC Speedrun Challenge. An inspired choice, something that captured the imagination of more than 100 contestants, all reliving the experience they've had with a Hornet or Grasshopper from their childhood and wanting to do something very, very silly with it. And along with the chassis, Phil also chooses the rules of the competition. So from the 1st of June, anyone interested knows the car and they know the constraints within the rules. So in the challenge, there were 3 overall classes. Across all 3 classes, the common rule was that your car had to make use of a Grasshopper chassis. In the brushed and brushless classes, the modifications were limited to over-the-counter parts. So I was interested. My first buggy was a Tamiya Hornet. Long since gone, I'd told it to buy other vehicles. So the idea of a tricked-out Grasshopper or Hornet interested me. What would I do? What parts would I buy if I wanted to make a silly Project Hornet? Something called out to me. It was possible to get an all-alloy gearbox. So I asked Phil, if I ran this gearbox, I'm not planning on entering, if I ran this gearbox, would it be eligible? Phil quickly replied to say yes, for sure. It's an over-the-shelf part, go for it. But seriously, you're not entering? So I noodled on it for a while. It did seem interesting. A gearbox that cost at least as much as the car in the first place happened to be one of my luckiest choices. So then I pored over the rules some more. The brushed class requires a 2S LiPo. The brushless class allows a 2S or a 3S LiPo. Interesting. I wonder how many other entrants notice that you're allowed a 3S in the brushless class. If I can get a 3S that fits inside the Grasshopper chassis, it's probably going to be quick. The basic rule being a 3S will be about 50% faster than a 2S. So I did some research. What motors could I get that would be interesting? I was intrigued. Could I make a 380 motor car actually competitive? For those of you who are not aware, the Grasshopper uses a 380 motor. So I wondered, would it be possible to speedrun a car and get good results staying within the constraints of a 380 motor? I looked around. I looked around at what I could find in terms of the absolute best of 380 sized motors. The obvious choice, and one used in other race classes since, is a Tamiya Sport tuned 380 motor. I know some of the low-speed mini cars use this 25 turn. How quick could that be? And whilst I was investigating it, I also found this tiny 380 sized helicopter motor. This is a modified motor, brushes and everything. How fast could this go? Could it do it? And the other thing I researched was what exists in the way of brushless motors. On the likes of Banggood or AliExpress, it's possible to find Surpass Hobby or Rocket RC 380 can size motors. Here is a simple one that's uncensored. And I'd also found the supersonic 380 8.5 turn. Could that be made to run fast enough? We've got batteries, we've got motors. You want to be thinking about gearing. There are 2 ways of going about gearing. The standard choice is to go pinion large, spur gear small. In this gearbox, changing the spur gear isn't possible. One of the upgrades found was a 2 mod adjustable motor mount. Now on the standard gearbox, that allows you to change up to a couple of pinions larger, so something like a 20-tooth pinion. On the alloy gearbox, where there's no internal reinforcement, it's possible to make a 24-tooth pinion fit. That's where I got lucky in my gearbox. And the other part of going faster is larger wheels and tyres. Some oversized drag tyres from AliExpress. These claim to be belted, but in practice that's simply not true. What I ended up going with is D-Boots Hoons. They're very hard, they're not particularly grippy, but they do work well and they do retain their size. And so that's enough to put together a car of sorts, a car to start with and a car to get up and running with. What other equipment do we need? We need a way of recording it, and that can be a phone on a tripod, same as I have here, and a GPS. And most people are using the Sky RC GPSs, either the GSM 015 or 020. I didn't really fancy that. I already had a smartwatch. I downloaded a GPS app for my smartwatch to be able to use that. So we've got a car, we've got a camera, we've got a means of checking the speed. Where on earth do we speedrun it? One of the biggest unknowns for me as a newcomer to speedrunning was figuring out what works as a location. I didn't even really know how fast I was going to be able to go. I didn't really know how much space I would need to be able to do that. So I scouted out some of the nearby locations. Anything with a curve in really wasn't going to work. Anything too narrow wasn't going to work. And the other thing to appreciate is quite how fast these cars could be running. Being anywhere near other people was also a no-go. Go to Google Maps. Google Maps Satellite View gives you a great oversight as to where might be straight, wide roads that you can make use of. Ask around, ask friends, take trips out through that time in June before the event starts for real in July. Go and visit roads, go and find the ones that are flattest, have the least curvature to them, either in terms of going straight and having little crown in the road, and go and see what might work. And then we have a fork. I don't have a tuning fork, but this is my tuning fork. Take the car out, make some runs, make some passes, find out what works, find out what you're able to do. I used that time for deciding whether I was going to compete in brushed or brushless. And seeing that the limit for a 380 brushed motor was really going to be somewhere in the range of 25 miles an hour, that was a no-go. The brushless motors I could see were much faster. My calculations suggested they could go significantly faster. And then set up a YouTube account. Make sure you've got somewhere to be able to record and practice recording during that time in June. Make sure that when the entry starts in July, you're good to go and you know what you're doing and you're ready to hit the ground running. Make sure you've rehearsed the process. The Poor Boys RC Speedrun Challenge requires you to have a single edit. What that means is that you show off the motor, the ESC, the battery before and after your run. And you do that all in one single take. Practice it, make sure you're ready, and make sure you don't make mistakes and you've got it down to a T. And then when it comes around to July the 1st, you start for real. You go to your chosen location, fully charged batteries, you do a simple pass, you do something to get you on the scoreboard, and then you probably crash, and you bring it home and you lick your wounds and you analyze what you did in that run. You figure out what changes to make. Do you need a bigger pinion? Do you need more timing on your ESC? Do you need a wheelie bar? Do you need different weight distribution? Do you need to modify the body shell, higher, lower? Do you need to make suspension changes? And so on and so on. So I guess it's back to the tuning fork. Tuning and running and running and tuning. Until you get there, until you get a 75 mile an hour Grasshopper and 4th on the scoreboard. Thanks. Here we go. Let's get it rolling, get it up to speed. Wish me luck. That's a crash, and that's a crash because the motor cut out. Here we are. Motor still going. Oh, ESC is not happy. Spoiler is not happy. This might be the end of us. This might be the end of us. Well, we've got a new top speed of 74.5. Thanks for listening to my story of my first speed run. I hope it inspires you to do the same.
and compete again in this year's 2026 Speedrun Challenge. If you want to see the complete video of my 74.5 mile an hour run, I'll put a link to the video here.